This is Sky News at 2, the top stories. A tide of hatred calls for President Trump to denounce a white supremacist rally in which 3 people died. I'm clean. Farah launches a tearful attack on the media over doping allegations.
You can write what you like, but at the same time, I'm a clean athlete, and as long as I understand I sleep well at night.
Brexit brotherhood for now, as 2 cabinet ministers from opposing sides present a united front. The fight for Raqqa. Sky News speaks to the British man who left his life back home to fight Islamic State in Syria. Learner drivers are given the green light to have lessons on motorways.
And in the sport, it's the first Super Sunday of the new Premier League season. Manchester United take on West Ham later, but right now it's Newcastle versus Tottenham, and we'll bring you the latest from St James's Park.
A very good afternoon to you. President Trump has been criticised for condemning the behaviour of many sides rather than denouncing white supremacists after violence at a far-right rally in Virginia left 3 people dead. The president's response contrasted that of Virginia's governor, who told the white supremacists to go home, while the mayor of Charlottesville has blamed a tide of hatred. The FBI has opened a civil rights investigation after a car was driven into anti-fascist protesters, killing a 32-year-old woman, while 2 police officers working to secure the march were also killed when their helicopter crashed. From Charlottesville, our correspondent James Matthews reports, and a warning that his piece does show the moments before the woman is hit by a car.
This was the street where a car had been driven at speed into a crowd. James Matthews, Sky News, in Charlottesville, Virginia.
Well, James joins us now from Charlottesville. And James, I suppose this is the first big test that President Trump has had to deal with domestically, and a lot of criticism for the way he's handled it.
Yeah, he's a man who doesn't need fresh challenges, isn't he, Rebecca? I'm standing at the street where this crash happened yesterday, this incident. Some describe as domestic terrorism. She said that she had no idea he had been heading towards a far-right rally. She said that she thought he was going to a rally for Donald Trump. OK,
James, thanks very much for that update. Now, Farah has used a news conference after his silver medal win at the World Championships to launch an emotional attack on the media. The athlete, who's retiring from championship track events, accused the press of trying to destroy him over drug allegations.
Sometimes I find it bizarre how certain people write certain things to be able to suit how they want to sell the story. Show him what's right, that's all he counts.
Let's get more now on this with our correspondent Enda Brady, who was there last night. And Enda, a pretty disappointing end to his career. And these comments are all geared towards allegations to do with his coach.
Yes, this was an extraordinary news conference this morning in London. It was called to basically give the media the opportunity to speak to successful athletes from last night, like Sir Mo Farah, the men's 100-metre relay team who also won gold, and the ladies' relay team who won silver. But questions kept coming at Sir Mo this morning from certain tabloid newspapers who questioned him about his relationship with Alberto Salazar, his coach. Now, he is reportedly still being investigated, the coach, by the United States Anti-Doping Agency. And Mo Farah took exception to the line of questioning and the fact that these questions kept coming. And quite simply, he said history doesn't lie. And he said that everything he has achieved through hard work. And he just pointed out that he feels that in this country, the media will build people up and then very quickly knock them back down again. And it seems that he's had enough of all these questions that he feels are questions for other people. And he thumped his chest at one stage. He said, I'm a British athlete. I'm clean. I'm proud of where I'm from. I'm proud of this country. I'm proud of what I've achieved. And then he ended it by saying, I sleep very well at night. And he went on to say that obviously he has now said goodbye to London. There is one more race he will run in Zurich in the Diamond League. And then he will turn his attentions to marathon running and building towards what he can achieve over much longer distances. He says he wants a nice Caribbean holiday soon with his family once he gets Zurich out of the way. But make no mistake, the headlines in tomorrow's newspapers will be all about this extraordinary outburst and where he really gave both barrels back to certain newspaper journalists this morning.
Yeah, astonishing press conference. Thanks very much for that update there. Now, after weeks of public spats, two of the Cabinet's leading members have attempted to show a united front. The Chancellor, Philip Hammond, and the International Trade Secretary, Liam Fox, have written a joint article that's in the Sunday Telegraph, and they've agreed that Britain needs a transition period to soften the UK's exit from the European Union. Well, they've said businesses need to have confidence that there will not be a cliff edge when we leave the EU in just over 20 months' time. That's why we believe a time-limited interim period will be an important feature to further our national interest and give business greater certainty. But it cannot be indefinite. It cannot be a backdoor to staying in the EU. And they go on to say, we are both clear that during this period, the UK will be outside the single market and outside the customs union and will be a third country, not party to EU treaties. Well, let's go live now to Westminster and our political correspondent, Darren McCaffrey. And Darren, they've shown a united front here. Is this just for show?
I think to a degree it may well be papering over some cracks, given the fact of how deep those divisions, Rebecca, go within the Cabinet. Really actually are. Indeed,
thanks very much for that update there, Darren. Now, in further news on Brexit, this week we're expecting to find out the government's position on the Ireland border after Britain leaves the European Union. The Sunday Telegraph reports that one of its proposals will involve offering free movement in and out of the UK to Irish citizens, a so-called Schengen area between the two countries. But how would the changes affect those living on the border? Sky's Ireland correspondent David Blevins went to find out.
It's a long way from Westminster. There are up to 200 crossing points and it's a political minefield. Relationships transformed by the peace process are now at stake. David Blevins, Sky News, on the Irish border.
You're watching Sky News. Coming up in the sport, can
SumUp.ie and get 50% off.
You're watching Sky News. It is, of course, the first weekend of the Premier League season. Let's get an update now from the Sky Sports News studio.
This sports bulletin is brought to you by Vitality. Get healthy, get rewarded.
Hello again. Last season's runners-up, Tottenham, are getting their Premier League campaign underway at Newcastle. Canada and the hosts Ireland play Japan. That's it for now. There's more updates on those Premier League games on Sky Sports News. We're back a little later.
Vitality. Get healthy, get rewarded.
Well, let's return now to reports that next week the government will announce its plans for the Irish border after Brexit. One of the proposals, according to the Sunday Telegraph, is a so-called Schengen area, which would allow Irish citizens to move freely in and out of the UK without border checks. Well, with me now is Bernard Purcell, editor of the Irish World newspaper. Thanks ever so much for joining us. My pleasure. Let's speak first of all about the Schengen area and the free movement of people between the UK and Ireland. I was under the impression that those south of the border were more concerned about the free movement of goods.
People are worried. There are three issues that need to be resolved before you move on to the substantive Brexit negotiations, and that's what Leo Varadkar, the Taoiseach, made clear last week in his keynote speech in Northern Ireland. That's the status of EU citizens in this country, that's the divorce bill and the border in Northern Ireland. Now, clearly, there have been expressions of concern about the status of Irish people among the EU citizens, but there's a long-standing arrangement between Britain and Ireland that British people have the same rights as Irish people in Ireland and vice versa. That goes back to the 1920s and then to 1940s legislation, and Theresa May has already said before now that that is one of her goals. There's nothing new about that per se, and there seems to be very, very little detail that's been revealed. It's more of a kind of briefing relating to some position papers that will be made public on the 21st. There is a greater concern about a kind of piecemeal dismantling of the progress that has been made in and around the border. Plus,
what impact will it have on the Good Friday Agreement?
Well, it will be the return of a border in the first instance. At least that is the fear that has been expressed by Irish politicians and Irish civil servants. There's a great deal of unease that certainly British politicians and civil servants are not really. They've been making policy on the hoof. They're not aware, and they do not seem to have made any kind of deep-seated realisation that the EU will begin on the Northern Irish border. The border itself has a unique sui generis history.
there will be a piecemeal dismantling of progress made since the Good Friday Agreement in terms of its return. Nobody's suggesting that there would necessarily be a return to institutionalised terrorist violence, but you would be entering unknown territory.
So do you think it may need to be rewritten?
The Good Friday Agreement?
Yeah.
Well, it's an international agreement between two countries. You might actually get addenda to those, you might get some amendments, but given that we're 18 years into it and that it took a long time to get there, I can't see the Good Friday Agreement being rewritten. Keep in mind that the one pro-Brexit party in Northern Ireland is the DUP, which is keeping the minority government here. They alone supported Brexit in Northern Ireland when there was a significant majority in favour of remaining in the EU. But if you look back to the referendum campaign and the time after it, Northern Ireland was at best an afterthought in any of the discussion. It did not feature. It never has. And people, even despite the best interventions of people in Ireland, there's also a concern that it is, as I said, policy's been made on the hoof. This idea of a soft touch, high technology-led policing of the border is, as far as Irish politicians and civil servants are concerned, a fantasy.
And we have heard that, you know, these proposals are going to be announced next week. Do you think this is as a direct reaction to the Irish Prime Minister, who last week was very critical that no decisions have yet been made?
The headlines certainly are, but there is also an actual technical requirement for the 3 position papers on those issues that I mentioned ahead of the negotiations that begin on the 28th of August. Now, we have heard a certain amount of disbelief coming from Brussels, even allowing for positioning and vested interests, but also from Ireland, that the level of preparedness in this country at government level has been dominated by more by the splits within the Conservative Party than any kind of serious attention to detail. Even if there was a properly prepared position and goal for the end of Brexit, the amount of legislative time, the amount of drafting time, it would actually make it very, very difficult to get anything else done. But there's no evidence that there has been that commitment of resources or indeed intellectual capital.
OK, Bernard Purcell, thanks ever so much for coming in and sharing your views on that. Well, let's take a look at the weather now, shall we?
Whatever the weather, enjoy your holiday. Multitrip.com Travel Insurance, proud sponsors of Sky News Weather.
Sunday afternoon will be fine and dry for most, with sunny spells and light winds. It will turn cloudy and wet later across Ireland. There will be some scattered showers across northern Scotland, with the odd shower possible in Wales and southwest England. Otherwise, most places will be dry and sunny, I'm pleased to say, throughout the afternoon, although cloud will build across Ireland with outbreaks of rain reaching the west.
Multitrip.com Travel Insurance, proud sponsors of Sky News Weather.
You're watching Sky News. Here's a look at what's coming up.
Live on Sky Sports Cricket.
Welcome back. You're watching Sky News. The top stories. The FBI has opened a civil rights investigation after a car ploughed into anti-fascist protesters at a far-right rally in Virginia. Sir Mo Farah has used a news conference after his silver medal win at the World Championships to launch an emotional attack on the media. And after weeks of public spats, 2 of the Cabinet's leading members, Philip Hammond and Liam Fox, have attempted to show a united front on Brexit. But time now for our weekly technology show, Swipe. Here's Gemma.
Bringing the latest technology to your home. The Swipe Report on Sky News is sponsored by Currys PC World and Philips Hue.
Welcome to Swipe from the Gfinity Esports Arena in London. Here's what we've got for you on this week's programme. Well, that's it for this week, but don't forget to join us again for more Swipe next week. And why not follow us on Twitter at Sky News Swipe. See you again soon. Bye-bye.
Bringing the latest technology to your home. The Swipe Report on Sky News is sponsored by Currys PC World and Philips Hue.
Now we'll soon be seeing L plates on the motorway, and a move designed to give learner drivers more experience behind the wheel. Under new plans, which will come into effect next year, learner drivers will be allowed to have lessons on motorways in dual-control cars. Katerina Bertozzi has this report.
Hello, I'm James. I'm your instructor.
Hi, Katerina. Very nice to meet you.
Pleased to meet you. James has been a driving instructor for nearly 10 years. He has taught hundreds of nervous learners. Katerina Vitozzi, Sky News, Bristol.
Ambulances and paramedic teams are being forced to step in to respond to a steep rise in calls from mental health patients. The figures collected from Freedom of Information requests by Labour MP Luciana Berger reveal that ambulances received 30,000 more mental health calls in 2016 to 17 when compared to 2 years earlier. Over the same period, paramedics spent an additional 55,000 hours supporting patients struggling with mental health problems. The fight to take back Raqqa in Syria from Islamic State is continuing with help from British volunteers. Sky News has spoken to one man who left his job in the UK to do just that. Jack Holmes has been describing the dangers he's faced, including from other sniper fire, suicide bombers and also rockets.
We have been in combat with ISIS from 50 metres to 500 metres. They're everywhere on the front. The city's very tightly packed together, all the buildings, so they can sneak around a lot and you don't see them. The first day we went out, they sent a suicide truck to our position. Luckily, it didn't blow up.
You're watching Sky News. Coming up in the sport, can Tottenham get...
Believe in better.
You're watching Sky News. Let's get a check on the sport now with Jane.
Hello again. Last season's runners-up, Tottenham, are getting their Premier League campaign underway. That's it for now. There's more updates on those Premier League games on Sky Sports News. We're back a little later on.
OK, thanks very much for that update there, Jane. Let's take a look at the weather now, shall we?
While East Asia enjoys a pleasant evening, inspiration blooms in Europe.
Sunday afternoon will be fine and dry for most, with sunny spells and light winds. It will turn pretty cloudy and wet, I'm afraid to say, later on across Ireland. There will be some scattered showers across northern Scotland, with the odd shower possible in Wales and southwest England. Otherwise, most places will be dry and sunny through the afternoon, although cloud will build across Ireland with outbreaks of rain reaching the west. Cloud and rain will spread across Ireland into Northern Ireland this evening.
The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Coming up on Sky News, there are calls for President Trump to do more after violence in Virginia leaves 3 people dead.